Right, Mikey. So we're living through some pretty unprecedented times, and COVID has sort of forced everybody to be at home, and whilst everybody's at home, this sort of civil rights movement has kicked off, and so I can imagine for particularly, in all homes with black people, but I can imagine, homes that have got interracial relationships, there are some conversations that are either happening or nobody saying anything at all. What is the situation like for you at home? How has the movement and the civil, the Black Lives Matter movement affected you guys at home? What's the conversation and discourse at home like?
Well, yeah, it's obviously been a very, very, very tough time, and if I'm going to cut straight to it, I'm going to be quite honest about, particularly my experience in an interracial relationship. Right, I think that the events that are happening today, particularly with George Floyd, I think brought a lot of interracial relationships, and I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but again, this is my own experience, right? I think that it brought a lot of interracial relationships to a crossroads, and I think you're either with this or you're not, right? So again, I'm very, very fortunate whereby my wife has seen, she hasn't lived the same experience as me, and she's fully aware of that. But she's seen my experience. She's seen how this affects me. She's seen, even prior the George Floyd incident, how my life and I have to kind of navigate through, a different route to maybe she does, right? So the conversations that come up now, I find very fruitful because we're laying on how we both feel. I feel very encouraged by my wife to speak on exactly as I feel, and let's make no mistake, I do feel that there's been a heavy feeling of injustice, and it's something that occupies me, to be honest, daily. Right, so, and this can dictate your mood, right, from the moment you wake up to when you go to sleep. So first and foremost, not agreeing on political issues in an interracial relationship, you then have the idea that if it's unspoken and it's just something that's just there, you're going to have a particular mindset from being a black individual, right, and a white individual. So that can affect the dynamics of your relationship. As I said, I'm fortunate that we understand and we're kind of both on the same political path, and so it's easier for her to understand where I'm at. If I'm maybe a bit more quiet on one day, maybe she understands subliminally. Maybe she doesn't even need to say anything, but she understands and allows me that room to kind of maneuver my thoughts or my actions. And that's why I'm extremely thankful for my wife, because I do feel, as I was saying, that a lot of interracial relationships are at a crossroads right now. and if you have somebody who was born and bred in UK but is white, if they don't understand the black struggle, I don't know how your relationship's going to last. So that there's a big responsibility when you walk into an interracial relationship from the black side and the white side. And it's not just something where, maybe my lived experiences kind of made me put a toe into kind of black culture, and I like it. I'm quite comfortable in it. Music, food, and so I've met a black partner, and I like that individual. This really, really shines the light on, you can't just marry into that individual. You need to marry into that whole entire black idea, black culture.
Wow.
And as I said, if I'm gonna take a guess, I do think in UK England, a lot of interracial relationships could struggle today. That's the honest truth. Very, very difficult conversation, but it's something that I do believe.
Well, but we're going to find out at some point. So if you look at the most recent statistics on this, like interracial relationships, as much as they are becoming more common in the UK, it's still under 10%. So we're looking at 9% circa in the UK. So, but it sounds like from the recent events, there's even been a step change in the conversation, the level of conversation that you're having. And do you consider that to be the truth? Like, it's almost giving you some additional depth within your relationship by going a level further in some of those conversations, and how, if that's the case, how did that make you feel almost? So I'm sure there were conversations happening prior anyway, but if you're now going a level deeper, how did that feel for you?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that in my current, as if I'm going to move on to somebody else, in my relationship, I'm very thankful, because I feel that it asked a question of our relationship. It asked a question whether she's really into this, whether my wife is really into just me, or to this. And she needs to be married into this in order for my relationship with her to succeed. That's how I feel. So I feel that the conversations we've had have made us have a deeper respect for one another, because she understands my struggle more. It's something that we're dealing with on the surface on a day-to-day, as I said, with my emotions, which obviously I can't hide or anything like that. So we understand how we feel about certain things, and it's probably encouraged us to just talk more about more difficult things. As I said, it's something that we've always been aware of, the way that I have to navigate through my life, but it's probably not something that we discuss regularly, right? So now it is, and it probably, it ticks another box that I didn't even know was there.
Sure.
Sure.
So there's a deeper relationship between us both, whereby I know that she's definitely connected to me, not just in terms of she loves me as an individual, but emotionally connected to where I'm at. And that's a very, very big thing, particularly for a black individual and a white individual that's in an interracial relationship within the UK.
Yeah. So when everything happened, it sounds as though you guys were having quite open conversations about your experiences prior to COVID and George Floyd. But when the George Floyd situation sort of kicked off, were there expectations that you had of your wife in terms of bringing that conversation to you, or sharing her thoughts, feelings, perspectives? Or is it stuff that sort of organically, because of who your wife is and how your relationship is shaped, was it stuff that was just sort of coming out organically?
I think that prior to the incident, the George Floyd incident, I think that a lot of struggles that we tend to have are unheard, mainly because, as I said, we don't discuss these things. And so where my wife is quite visibly upset about what's going on in the world today, it allows for that connection. I know that she doesn't have to live through this. She could quite easily not be in an interracial relationship, and it just be, to be honest, quite easy. But she chooses to be by my side in this situation and say, do you know what? He's going through this struggle. I'm going to try my best to understand that emotionally. That emotional intelligence she has to connect with me and be like, this is not fair. This is not fair. This injustice, we need to speak out about this. She put up an Instagram post whereby she told her immediate social circle that, her experience. This is what it is. When we've, and this is prior to the George Floyd incident, going away on holiday and experience certain things, having to look at particular countries before we pick our holiday. And we love going on holidays. We try and do 3 a year. Having to look at particular areas, hotels, considering, are they going to be receptive to the black individual? All of this kind of mindset. And this is something that she does subconsciously, right? It's not something that we speak about. So I think when we're having this discussion openly and being like, this is what we live like, it makes you realise this person's completely down, completely involved in where I'm at,
Absolutely. So we're gonna come back to that sort of travelling holiday piece. I'd like to pick up on something you just said when you said that Lacey was talking to her social circle and her, the people that are in her circle. So what is that conversation like for her? Is it that she is immediately friends with people that have got very similar opinions on this kind of stuff, or is it that she's actually having to teach people about what it's like?
I think for Lacey, we're talking, I guess, maybe her family and her friends, right? That will. I think she feels that she has a responsibility.
Okay.
Whereby she's in an interracial relationship and the people around her, family and friends, she has a responsibility to educate them on what it is that somebody from a different community has to go through. And maybe it's something that they're not even thinking about. And in fact, that's a fact because, some of Lacey's friends and family have reached out to her to say, wow, I'm very surprised by what you have to go through. Because it's just the norm, right? And who has to think about, where I go on holiday? That's what they're thinking. Who has to think about where to go on holiday? I just kind of pick the hotel, pick the country, it's perfectly fine. Because that's the norm. And I think that's the difference with this whole thing, when you consider Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. It's kind of, all we're saying is there's a norm that black people aren't looked at, So we're not trying to say black lives only and we're above and beyond anybody else. We're simply saying there's a norm where everybody's lives matter, but black people don't, right? So, and that's the difference. If you're here, you're born into this world and everything's normal and you can kind of navigate your way around the place and that's fine, I can pick that, I can pick that and it's all fine. I'm not going to be judged on it. I don't need to worry about my selection. You're never going to think about the people below you. Never, because that's the norm. Right? So my norm is knowing that I have to think about where I'm going. I have to think about what I'm doing. I have to think about how I'm acting. That's my norm. So I know above me there's some privileged people who don't have to do that. And that's quite simply it. We're not saying we're up here, we're above you guys down there. We're just saying we're below you guys who are quite fortunate enough to not think about this kind of thing. And we just want to be on that level. That's all it is, So I think that Lacey had that responsibility. Well, this is what she, how she felt, because I wasn't pushing her to do anything. I think she had that responsibility to let people see that this norm is not for everybody else.
Sure.
That's what I think that she put that first up for us.
Shout out Lacey, man.